All right, guys, you bought the bow and your kid is pumped. And now you're looking at this thing like a piece of IKEA furniture with no instructions. Well, hey, don't sweat it, because today we're going to show you exactly how to set this thing up so your little guy or girl can shoot this thing safely and at least have a chance to hit the target. And you can be the hero of the day. All that next on Trinity Wild. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with us today. So let me set the scene. You got a new bow, an excited kid, and maybe a confused parent. Well, perfect, you're in the right place. Now, even after watching this, I would encourage you, after you get the bow set up, get them to a real bow shop, let a real bow tech look at it, and just fine tune it just to make sure everything's right. But when we're done today, you're gonna at least be able to get them set up and shooting the bow safely. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that everything is set up correctly. Then we'll move on to sizing it properly, proper draw weight, and all that stuff. So let's get started with the bow. Starting with the D-loop. All right, so that is your D-loop. If you know anything about knots, those are two half hitches, and you can see one's on this side and one's on the other side. But if you'll see this one, you can slide it up and down the string. That is very bad. So let me show you how we're gonna make sure we have that in the right spot first. I've got the bow straight up and down. I'm gonna go ahead and put an arrow in and knock it in the D-loop so you can see. Now this is where the D-loop came set up at. As you can see, this bow is not set up to optimal performance, obviously. So let's go through how to fix this. So even if your D-loop doesn't move, it's usually not tied very tight, and you can just kind of shake it like that and it will loosen. I don't want to loosen it all the way unless you want to learn how to tie a D-loop. I don't mind showing you how to do that, but if you've never done it before, no need in doing it now. So I've got it loose where it will move. Let's go back and see if we can't make the arrow sit a little more level. So now again, we've got it set up so you see how that angle is up. I'm going to push that D-loop up so it flattens that arrow out. Now, what we're looking at, see these two little, let me move this arrow. These two little holes right here. Sometimes there's only one hole. That's called your burger hole. I'd like for that arrow to bisect, meaning come right across the center of that burger hole. Now because of this way this rest is made, it doesn't move up and down. So it normally is going to sit there, but I want to try to get that arrow right through that burger hole. So as you can see, we got it pretty close now. If it's going to be fudged one way or another, you'd rather it be at a little bit of a downward angle than an upward angle. But ultimately, to start with, I'd like it to be flat. All right, now remember, it's not tight yet, so we want to have just enough space for that arrow to move just a little bit. See how that knock will travel just a tiny bit? So I just want to look and eyeball that and see. That looks pretty level. I think I'm happy with that. So now let's go back and let's tighten this D-loop up so it doesn't move. You see, we want just a tiny little bit of movement in that knock so it doesn't pinch, okay? So now take my arrow out. So what we're typically going to use for this in the shop are knocking pliers. Chances that you have this laying around in your house are slim to none. So you can't just use a regular set of pliers. I'm going to show you. So all we're going to do is take our pliers, put them inside that D-loop, and then spread them apart. Just like that. So that's going to tighten that back down. Now again, not a perfect job, but that will do so your child can get out on Christmas morning or on their birthday and shoot that bow. So now let's take a look at that peep. So our peep sight is going to be a little piece of plastic with a hole in it that's going to sit inside the string. What this is a little window. You look through the window to see your sight, and that helps line those two up. If you just have the sight all by itself without some type of rear aperture, you're not going to be lined up. So what he's going to do is look through that window after he draws to find the sight. So if it doesn't have that, like I said, don't worry about it right now. But if he does, for a kid, again, depending on the child, measure about 4.5 inches from the inside of that loop up to where the middle of the peep is. So we're going to push that down just a little. I don't want to do a lot of moving of this peep because what that's going to do is wear out your string and put an abrasion on there, and that's not going to be good. Now with this bow here, you've got some semi-tied in here and here. So if I want to move this, move those down, and they tie that like that on purpose. So when it comes into a shop, or that way you can move it and then come here and here. But see how it's crooked now. That's what this little tube is for. So when your child draws the bow, what that plastic tube does is straighten that up. Now you'll notice here too, again, out of the box, look how loose, how very loose that is, and how very loose that is. When this thing comes loose, it's going to hit you right in the eye. So we want to tighten that down. We want to grab that, tighten that, so that doesn't come off. And then if you'll see that, how that's not all the way down, we're going to push that down onto that peep so it doesn't slip off either. If it does slip off, it's not the end of the world. We just slip it back on. Many of your higher end bows, you're not going to see this because the strings are much better than what comes on here. Factory strings, it's liable to spin and twist, so that's what that's for. These that come on here are not great, but that's okay. At some point you can get someone to tie those in for you a little bit better, and that'll be a little more permanent. But for right now, just slide them up, and that's going to hold in place pretty well until you can get to a shop or professional that can actually tie it in correctly. All right, now we're standing behind the bow. We're going to adjust what's called the center shot, which is right here. We want to make sure that that arrow is lined up down the center of the bow. So now when I put an arrow on the string, let's see what we've got. So as you can see, that is not set up to optimum efficiency. So put the string in the middle of the riser, just eyeball it, and then as you look at that arrow, see how that's cranked off to the left-hand side there? We're going to move that back to the right. Where we're going to move that is with that little screw right there. Loosen that, and then we're going to move that rest over. And what we're trying to do is find that middle area. Too far. See, we're pretty close. There we go. So we want to try and get the arrow down the middle. Let me show you another quick way you can check that. So now, if you're looking from the top of the bow down, see how we've got that pretty well lined up with the limb bolt is lined up with the bottom limb bolt, so our arrow's coming straight off of that rest. So now that we got the bow ready to shoot, let's get it sized properly. The first thing we want to do is get your child's approximate draw length. We're going to have them spread their hands out all the way, and we're going to measure them fingertip to fingertip. We're going to divide that by 2.5. That's going to give us a good place to start, and that's not the end-all be-all. Again, I encourage you to get to a shop where a professional archery technician can look at it and just make sure that it's not a little long, a little short, because that will take away from the enjoyment of that bow if it's not set up properly. So when we do the calculations, if we come out with, let's say, 23.4, fudge it back to 23. Go with the shorter draw length. It's better to set that bow up a little bit short than it is to set it up a little bit long. All right, this is going to be the draw length adjustment for the Royale. So all you've got is this little cam, and if you look, there's a little window right here, and you'll see that number. That's what the draw length is set at currently. So all you're going to do is take those two screws out, rotate the module until the correct number is showing through the window. Royale happens to be a 3/32 Allen wrench, so you'll just unscrew that, take that screw out, and then you'll see you can just rotate it to the corresponding number. And 23 was where we want to land. And then you look at it and go, where do I put the screw back? So the corresponding hole, there's only a couple places to put it. See how there's a lined up hole, and then that one's blocked? So that's one. That one goes right back in there. And then the other one will go back in where it, see how there's how that's a long hole? Because you got one to the inside and one in the exact hole, and we're set up at 23. Now we'll come down and we'll do the same thing on the other cam. So now we have them both set on 23. And we are good to go. Now here's another style. This is the Mission Hammer. You see there's only one screw in it, but then you have letters on the outside with a corresponding hole. So what you'll do is the same thing though. You're rotating that module. Now the Mission Hammer is one you won't get on Amazon. You'll have to go to a shop to get it, but there is a chance you might be able to get one on eBay or something like that. So that's how you adjust that one. And you're going to look up online and find the chart that'll show you how to do that. Let me show you one more. All right, so this is another way. So here you can see that string stop a little easier, but again, I'm rotating that as it rotates closer to the cable. That's what shortens the draw length. So again, I've got two screws, one here. Now it's going to sink in right where the corresponding number is. So this one's set at 23. So you have two screws, and it's got a top cam and a bottom cam as well. That's the Hoyt Cobalt. Again, you're not going to get this one off of Amazon. You'd have to get this from a shop. All right, so now we've dealt with draw length. Let's deal with draw weight. Now the draw weight is going to be controlled here in the limb pockets, top and bottom. For this particular bow, most of these smaller bows, 3/16 Allen wrench is what you're going to need. So with the limb pockets bottomed out At 23 inches, this thing is pulling 45 pounds. That's surprising. So if your child has never shot a bow before, 45 pounds is going to be a little heavy. We're going to take our Allen wrench and we're going to loosen these bolts. Anything I do to the top, I do to the bottom. Now, most of these are going to tell you don't take more than this many turns out. Because as you can see, that bolt is sticking out right there. If you take too many turns out, it's going to come apart on you. Then you got to bring it into me and you're not going to be the hero anymore. So don't take too many turns out. Take a couple out at a time. And typically one full turn is 3 pounds. So let's just see if one full turn out of here gives us a 3 pound lowering of the draw weight. I really don't know on this one. Let's double check and see. All right, draw 43. So pretty close to 3 pounds. Still 43 is going to be a little bit much. So let's take 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's a total of 4 we've taken out of here. We're going to take 2, 3. So we've taken 4 out of the bottom. If you're taking turns out of the top or the bottom, suddenly you forget or lose count, bottom it all the way back out and start over again. Because if this is off, if you've got 5 turns out here and 3 turns out here, this thing's going to shoot all kind of wonky. Not necessarily unsafe, it's just not going to shoot well. So if you ever lose count, bottom it out again, start all over. So we're sitting at 4 out right now. So with 4 turns out, we're sitting at 33 pounds. And my typical recommendation with a bow like this, a child that's never shot before, that's a 23-inch draw, I'm probably going to go ahead and take at least 6 turns out. So we got 4 turns, let's take 2 more out. All right, so a total of 6 turns out is going to get us 28 pounds. That's probably a decent place to start for 23. Now, if your child can't pull it, take another turn out. But again, keep track. Now this is where some of the safety part comes in. One of the rules you've got to make for your child is don't ever let me see you pull this bow back without an arrow in it. Because if you pull it back and you let it go, that's called a dry fire. I do have a lot of people ask, why is a dry fire bad? Let me show you why. When I put this arrow in the bow, okay, and I draw it to shoot it, all the power in the bow is being stored in the limbs and the cables. So I draw and I shoot, all that power is transferred into the arrow. When there's no arrow there and I draw and let it go, all that power's got to go somewhere. There's no arrow for it to go into. It's going to go back into the limbs and the cams and the strings. And chances are, at this low a poundage, the damage would be minimal. But 9 times out of 10, string is going to come off because when you shoot, this string doesn't travel very straight. It's going to oscillate a little bit. With no arrow there, it's probably going to miss the track when it comes back and it's going to come apart. So remember, you got to have that safety talk with your child. Do not draw this bow without an arrow in it. Now, let's talk about a release. The true ball shooter is a really good one. You can see I've got some adjustability there. I can make it a little longer, a little shorter. And let me show you where you want it. I don't want it too long and I certainly don't want it too short. It's going to fit around your hand just like this, with this part in the palm of your hand. Now when I'm setting this up, I don't want it to be so long that I have to reach way out to get to it, but I also don't want it so far back that I can't get to it. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to hook it onto my D-loop. Another safety tip, finger behind the trigger as you draw. Keep your finger off the trigger. Or as they say in the gun world, keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Don't touch the trigger until you are set and ready to shoot. So that finger on the draw is going to stay behind the trigger. Now let's let them draw and see if we've got the draw length right. Here's what we want to do. So what I want to think of is an imaginary line that runs from the back of my eye down. That's where the knock of the arrow should be sitting. Let me show you. Now again, as they draw, hand behind that trigger. Get a good habit of doing that. Now, ignore this arm. I'm going to be bending it. I want his arm straight out. So as I draw, notice where this is coming. That's way too short. And he's going to do this. He's going to try to look through that hole. Well, that's not what I want either. I want to bring that string into my nose and right into the side of my face So as I draw a line from the back of my eye down, the back of my eye should bisect where the knock of that arrow is. I don't want it in front. I don't want it behind. Think about the first knuckle under the ear. And again, this is just a place to start. Drawing so that knuckle is right in there. Let the string come to their nose. And that's where we want to be. Not too much facial pressure. So I want that string to come right into the tip of the nose, if you see that. And then bring the finger up and then begin to tighten your back muscles and pull through. In the beginning, don't worry too much about the sight. Just be really close and you'll be able to look when they draw that and kind of move the bow so the arrow is at least pointing at the target. So let's go back to the draw weight. So if they've shot 5 times and now they're here, it's too heavy. Take another turn out. How many turns out do we have? We've got 6. Make sure you remember that because we can't go past a certain number. So I may take another turn out and let him go. I want my child to be able to shoot this at least 10 times without needing a nap. One of the worst things you can do is start out too heavy, whether you're an adult or a child. Too heavy is not going to be fun. You're going to struggle, you're going to be nervous at the back, and you're going to punch the trigger. It's going to cause a lot of bad habits. Turn that bow down to where they can shoot it enough times and be comfortable with it. All right, so let's talk about the sight. You got 3 separate dots. Now as you aim, typically that's going to be, on a little kid bow, 10, 20, 30 is about right. After, if they feel comfortable drawing and shooting and have a good solid anchor position, otherwise don't worry with it yet. So we're going to draw and shoot. Here's our target, okay? So we're going to draw and we're going to shoot 3 arrows. All 3 arrows hit high and to the right. That's where we're going to move our sight, up and to the right. Loosen the top screw, and that's going to be your left and right. You'll have a screw on the side. That'll be your up and down. Don't worry about adjusting these pins just yet. Just know the top one is for your closest target. So I'm going to move the entire housing up and to the right and chase the miss. So I shoot 3 more arrows. Let's say they're all right here. So the height is right, but we're still incorrect on our left and right. So we're going to continue to move that sight over to the right until we shoot 3 arrows and get somewhere in the midst of that target. Ultimately, what I'd like to do is shoot 5 or 6 arrows and be able to get my fingers around them like that. But a little kid, if I can get both hands around it, that's great. Chase the miss until you get your arrows to group towards the center of the target. Now all that's probably going to be enough for day 1. See, that wasn't so bad. And now you get to go out and take all the credit. Put on that super dad or super mom cape and enjoy being the backyard legend. And if you feel like this video saved you some frustration, hit that like button for us. Even better, drop some comments below and let me know how that first shooting session went. Until next time, y'all stay wild, take care, and God bless.